Welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be looking at some really fascinating historical writing today. It's actually a portion of Imam Ali's will, and not just any will, but the one he wrote to his son, Imam Hasan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this wasn't just any ordinary time in their lives. I mean, this will was written right after the Battle of Safeen, right?
Right.
So it's packed with wisdom, reflections on life and death, and what he wants to pass on to his son.
That's really interesting because it's not just a legal document.
Right, exactly. It's so much more than that. It's like a window into his heart and mind, especially after going through something as intense as Safeen.
Yeah, I can imagine. So before we actually get into the will itself, maybe we should talk a bit about Safeen. I mean, what was so significant about this battle?
Well, the sources paint a very intense picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safeen, it wasn't just a regular battle.
Oh,
It was like this clash of ideologies within the Muslim community. I mean, think about it. It was an 8-day battle.
8 days.
Yeah, with Muslims fighting each other.
Oh, well.
Divided tribes, even brothers turning against brothers.
The sources even mentioned 70,000 casualties.
Yeah, and they even called one of the nights the Night of Howling.
I can only imagine. It must have been just horrifying.
It was a really pivotal moment in Islamic history, and it definitely shaped everything that came after it.
That's incredible. So I can see why this experience would weigh so heavily on Imam Ali's mind,
Oh, for sure.
Like you said, it wasn't just a batter. It was this huge ideological clash that divided the community.
Yeah.
But before we dive into the will itself, the sources mention something interesting about how Islam views wills.
Oh, yeah.
It's not quite the same as in other cultures.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of other cultures just focus on, how to divide up your possessions when you die.
Right.
But Islam, it has this really unique perspective.
Yeah.
It actually recognizes 3 different types of wills.
Free.
Yeah. There's the will of inheritance, which, that's the one everyone's familiar with.
Yeah.
Like how your stuff is divided up.
Your money and property and all that.
Exactly. Then there's the will of obligations, which is about making sure your debts are paid or stuff.
Okay.
But then there's this third one, the will of guidance. And that's where things get really fascinating.
Guidance. So what is that? Like advice for your heirs?
Yeah, exactly. It's about passing down your moral and ethical values, your wisdom, all the things you've learned in life, to future generations.
So would you say that Imam Ali's will to Imam Hasan falls into that third category?
It definitely does. It's more about guiding his son than anything else. Imagine it.
Yeah.
A father sharing his life lessons with his son, trying to prepare him for the challenges ahead.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Me too.
And you know what I find so fascinating about these historical documents?
What's that?
They can transcend time,
Yeah.
Even though it was written centuries ago, it still speaks to us today. It offers insights into leadership, faith, and just the human condition as a whole.
It really does.
So let's get into this will. What are some of the key things that Imam Ali wanted to convey to his son?
Okay, well, right from the beginning, you can tell that Safeen is weighing heavily on his mind.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
The very first line, he addresses his son, Imam Hasan, as the son who aspires to achieve the unattainable.
Wow, what a powerful way to start.
Right.
It's like he's acknowledging his son's ambition, but at the same time, there's this hint of melancholy there,
Yeah, it's after seeing all the horrors of Safeen, he's really reflecting on life's limitations.
Yeah, it makes you think. No matter how much we strive for things, there are just some things that are beyond our reach, right?
Right.
What do you think he was trying to get at with those phrases? Was he trying to be realistic, about the nature of life? Or was there something deeper there?
I think it's both. He's acknowledging the realities of life, the challenges, the illusions, the fact that we're all going to die someday.
Right.
But I think he's also urging his son to see beyond all of that, to focus on what truly matters.
Okay, so that's a great point. But then what does matter, according to Imam Ali, what guidance does he give his son to help him, navigate all of this?
That's a great question, and that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive.
So we left off with Imam Ali painting this pretty intense picture of life, death, and the world. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget about the bigger picture, So what kind of advice did he actually give to Imam Hasan to help him navigate these heavy realities?
Well, he really stresses the importance of fearing God and prioritizing the hereafter.
Okay, so it's not about living in fear, right?
Right. It's more about understanding that our actions have consequences.
I see.
Not just in this life, but in the next one, too.
Makes sense. So it's a reminder that our time on Earth is limited, and we should be focusing on what truly matters. Did he give any specific advice on how to live a good life?
Oh, yeah. He talks a lot about fulfilling obligations, being truthful, staying away from injustice, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. He also emphasizes choosing your companions wisely.
Surrounding yourself with good people.
Exactly. People who will uplift you, guide you toward righteousness.
Sounds like he's really emphasizing character and integrity.
Oh, definitely.
But what about practical matters? Did he offer any guidance on things like leadership, decision-making?
Absolutely. He tells Imam Hasan to learn from history,
Oh, interesting.
to really reflect on the past, to seek advice from those who are wiser and more experienced. He actually says, take lessons from the events that have passed, for both the intelligent and the ignorant can learn from the past.
That's powerful.
It really is.
Yeah. History can definitely be a great teacher, especially when it comes to understanding, the consequences of our choices. But sometimes it can be hard to see the lessons amidst all the chaos. Did Imam Ali offer any insights into how to actually make sense of it all?
Yeah, he cautions against being deceived by appearances.
Oh, interesting.
Don't be fooled by the success of people who are corrupt or unjust,
Okay, so don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly. True success isn't about wealth or status.
Right. That's an important message, especially in today's world where, power and riches are often glorified. But then how do you actually measure true success? What did Imam Ali consider a life well lived?
He talks about seeking knowledge and then actually acting upon it.
Oh, I see. So it's not enough to just know things.
Exactly.
You have to actually put them into practice.
Yeah. He says that knowledge without action is like a treasure that remains buried.
Whoa, I love that analogy. It really drives the point home.
Yeah.
Did he give any examples of how to put knowledge into action?
Yeah, he encourages kindness, charity, helping those in need, all these things we've talked about before, right?
Yeah.
Forgiveness, patience, humility.
Those are all really important. It reminds me of that story we discussed earlier about Sheikh al-Mamakani.
Oh, right.
He wrote that book as a will for his descendants.
He did.
It seems like both he and Imam Ali really understood the power of passing down knowledge and values to future generations.
Yeah, it's incredible. Sheikh al-Mamakani, who was this big Islamic scholar, wrote Mirror of Guidance for his descendants.
That's the name of the book, Mirror of Guidance.
Yeah. And it wasn't about, his money or possessions or anything like that. It was purely about his moral and ethical teachings.
Interesting.
He emphasized that they should study it regularly.
Wow.
So you can really see how vital it was to him to pass that wisdom down.
Yeah, makes you realize how important these generational conversations are. So it's amazing how these messages, written so long ago, can still resonate with us today, right?
They really do.
But sometimes it can be tough to actually apply these lessons in our own lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Did Imam Ali offer any practical advice on how to bridge that gap, between knowledge and action?
Yeah. He encourages self-reflection.
Okay.
Like looking inward, examining your intentions, being mindful of your actions.
So it's not about beating yourself up for your mistakes.
No, not at all.
But more about developing that self-awareness.
Exactly. And constantly striving for improvement.
Makes sense. But even when we know what's right, it can still be so hard to actually do it consistently. Did Imam Ali talk about that struggle at all?
He did. He actually talks about controlling your desires.
Not
Not being enslaved by them.
That's definitely a timeless challenge,
It really is.
especially in a world that's constantly bombarding us with temptations.
Yeah, we're always being told to chase the next shiny object,
Right. So it takes a lot of effort to resist all that.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to do that? Did Imam Ali give any guidance on that?
He emphasizes finding contentment, finding meaning in life, not just chasing after material things.
So it's more about inner peace than outer possession.
Exactly. He also talks about gratitude.
Appreciating what you have.
Yeah, and not taking it for granted.
So it's about changing your perspective, right?
Exactly.
Instead of focusing on what you lack, you choose to focus on what you have.
Right.
But, sometimes life throws you curveballs and it's really hard to stay positive.
Did Imam Ali acknowledge that? He did. And he reminds Imam Hasan that even when things are tough, there are still reasons to be grateful.
Okay.
He emphasizes that this life is a test, it's a journey, and it's an opportunity for growth.
So it's not about denying the difficult parts of life, but learning from them.
Yeah, exactly. And approaching them with wisdom and balance.
It's about realizing that we have a choice in how we respond to things.
Right.
But, sometimes that's easier said than done.
Did Imam Ali give any advice on how to actually develop that kind of resilience, that inner strength?
He talks about faith.
Trusting in God's plan, even when you don't understand it.
Okay.
Remembering that even when things seem bad, there's a bigger picture that we might not be able to see.
Right. It's about having faith that things will work out in the end.
Exactly. And he also encourages seeking support from your community, your loved ones.
Yeah. So you're not alone in your struggles.
Right. There's strength in reaching out for help.
That's a good reminder. He also talks about patience, right?
Yeah. Patience and perseverance. True success, it doesn't happen overnight.
Takes time.
Yeah. Effort and a willingness to learn from your mistakes.
So it's about trusting the process.
Exactly.
And knowing that even when things are tough, you can overcome those challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
Right. But you also have to be willing to seek forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Make amends when you've wronged others.
Because holding on to anger and resentment just hurts you in the end.
Exactly. And he also encourages giving to charity.
Oh.
Not just to help those in need, but also to purify your own heart.
It's about detaching from material wealth.
Right.
Realizing that true wealth is about the good that you do in the world.
He also talks about leadership.
Okay.
He says that true leadership isn't about power or control.
Oh.
It's about serving others.
Inspiring them to be their best.
Leading by example and empowering others.
So it's really about a completely different definition of leadership.
It is. This is a lot to process, you know?
It is.
I'm just struck by how Imam Ali weaves together all these things.
Yeah.
Practical advice, spiritual wisdom, and this deep understanding of what it means to be human.
It's clear that he drew upon his own experiences, both good and bad, to offer his son this roadmap for life. But what about death? Did he offer any specific advice on how to actually prepare for death?
That's a question that takes us into some even deeper waters. We'll have to explore that in part 3.
So we've talked about all this practical and spiritual guidance that Imam Ali gave to his son, but like you said, there's also this big question of death looming in the background. Did he address that directly in his will?
Oh, he definitely did. And it's actually pretty fascinating how he approaches it. You see, in a lot of cultures, death is this thing that people are afraid of, you know? Like it's almost taboo to even talk about it.
Right.
But in Islam, death is viewed as a transition, like a journey to the afterlife.
So it's not an ending, but a new beginning.
Exactly. And because of that perspective, Imam Ali doesn't shy away from discussing death with his son. He actually uses some pretty powerful metaphors to describe it.
Oh, like what?
He refers to death as a guest who arrives suddenly, and also a neighbor whose house is nearby.
Wow, those metaphors really make it seem so much more present, like you can almost feel it. You know?
Yeah. So did he talk about how to prepare for this guest or this neighbor?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of living each day as if it were your last.
Okay, so making the most of every moment.
Yeah, because you never know when your time will come.
True.
So you have to use every opportunity to do good, to seek forgiveness, and to strengthen your connection with God.
It's like that famous saying, right?
Which one?
The one attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Oh, yeah.
Work for this world as if you will live forever, and work for the hereafter as if you will die tomorrow.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
Right, and that's exactly what Imam Ali is urging his son to do.
He's not saying to live a life of denial, right?
No, not at all.
It's about striving for excellence in this world, while also keeping in mind that there's something more.
Exactly. This life is a journey. It's a preparation for what comes next.
So, did he give any specific advice on how to achieve that balance?
He talks about detaching from worldly possessions,
Okay.
focusing on inner peace and contentment. He reminds Imam Hasan that true wealth isn't about what you own, but about the richness of your relationships, your faith, and the good that you do for others.
So true happiness comes from within, not from outside things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get caught up in the material world, right?
It definitely is. Did Imam Ali offer any practical advice on how to resist that temptation?
He encourages being charitable and generous.
Giving to others.
Yeah. Not just because it helps those in need, but also because it purifies your own heart. It helps you detach from material things.
So the more you give, the more you receive, but not in a material sense.
Right. It's about spiritual abundance and inner peace.
But death can be a tough topic to even talk about, even with family. Was Imam Hasan receptive to all of this?
Well, we don't know exactly how that conversation went,
Right.
but we do know that Imam Hasan was known for his piety, wisdom, and compassion.
Okay.
So it's very likely that he took his father's words to heart.
Yeah, it speaks to the strength of their bond and the importance of passing down wisdom through the generations.
It also shows how important intergenerational dialogue is.
Absolutely. Imam Ali's will is this powerful reminder that we have a responsibility to share our knowledge and experiences with those who come after us.
Exactly. That's how we ensure that wisdom and ethical principles continue to be passed down.
Well, this deep dive into Imam Ali's will has been incredible. It's really made me think about my own life, my priorities and what kind of legacy I want to leave behind.
Yeah, me too. It just shows that even in ancient texts, there's this timeless wisdom that speaks to us today. Like it offers guidance for navigating life's complexities, both in this world and the next.
So what's one key takeaway that you hope our listeners will walk away with?
I hope they'll be inspired by Imam Ali's words to live with intention, to seek knowledge, cultivate compassion, and make the most of every opportunity to do good.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. What legacy do you want to leave behind? What wisdom will you share with the next generation? Take some time to reflect on those questions and let Imam Ali's words guide you on your journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.